Ask Mike, brought to you by the Stadium Shop on Razorback in Fayetteville.
Happy Monday, everybody. It's time for another edition of Ask Mike. Courtney Mims alongside Mike Irwin. How you doing on this Monday, Mike?
I'm doing good. Got the polo because it's warmer.
It looks good. It looks.
Have a mental thing. You know, I could wear polos in here in the winter because it's 75 degrees in the studio, but
yes.
If it's cold outside, can't do it.
Can't do it.
But it's warmer. So.
Yeah, it's gorgeous outside right now, but we're going to answer some questions. And our first question is from Hog Furious. Love that username. Everyone keeps expecting the basketball Hogs to do what the previous two teams did with 3 straight losses, one of them at home to end the regular season. You can forget that. What is wrong with this bunch?
Okay, we could get into all the philosophical stuff that's being batted around on social media and all this stuff like, Muss has lost control of the team, there's no chemistry, he's not providing positive vibes or whatever. I'm not going to get into that because the truth is you would have to be on that team inside the practice, inside the locker rooms to know any of that stuff. I'm not going to speculate. All I'm going to do is tell you what's wrong on the court. And we're going to start with defense because they've given up an average of 83 points a game in those 3 losses. That's compared to the season average of 67. Anybody with a brain knows there's a problem there. Mm-hmm. Mostly layups. Alabama shot 45% on Arkansas, Tennessee 50%, Kentucky 53%. Again, a lot of that is just inside layups. What's going on there? Well, some of it, you know, you got to stop dribble penetration and all that, but most of that's on the bigs to me. They had when you start looking at when they played well, and what was the last game really impressive, really impressive, the game at Rupp.
Yeah.
Okay, 5 block shots from the bigs inside the 2 Mitchell brothers. 5 block shots, none in this game. Same team playing at home. You have none, but you have 5 on the road. So there's a real problem in there with those 2 guys. Jalen Graham is not going to play great defense. We know that. And that's one of the reasons he's not playing it very much.
Yeah.
But the Mitchell brothers were, and they were scoring points too. The bigs in Rupp, 21 combined points. They've had 15 combined in the 3 losses. So they had more points in 1 game at Rupp than in 3 games that they've all lost. So again, there's a defensive problem with those 2 guys, and there's a scoring problem with those 2 guys. And that's got to be corrected. If they don't figure that out, I don't think they're going very far from here on out. Now, a lot of people are blaming Nick Smith Jr. I don't know where that's coming from. He's averaging 21 points a game in those 3 losses.
Who's blaming Nick Smith Jr.?
Oh, you just read it all the time. Bad chemistry. I guess they think he should score 30 points in a game. I'm not sure. Ricky Council, a lot of complaints about him. I'm not saying he hasn't made mistakes, but he's averaged 16 points a game during that stretch. Devoe, 14. Black has dropped off. He's around 11 points a game in that stretch, and his assist-to-turnover ratio is what's bad. He's had 7 assists to 10 turnovers. That's not good. The rumor is he's been sick. I don't know if he's actually confirmed that or not or said anything about it.
He has not.
But if he's been sick, it wasn't sick enough to keep him from playing, but if it's affecting him, hopefully he will feel better once the SEC tournament starts, and he will play better. But those are the issues I see, and those are the issues that have to be corrected. It starts with defense, and mostly it's inside.
Yeah.
You know, they're giving up too many points inside, and they're not scoring enough points inside.
Yeah, you need to see more production from the Mitchell twins especially. I was shocked to see on the stat sheet against Kentucky this past Saturday, they only combined for 2 points.
Yeah, and
that was insane.
18 missed layups. I'm not sure I've ever seen that many in a game.
I know. I mean, especially when you're not turning the ball over as much.
And if they hadn't played well at all, then you might say, well, okay. But, I mean, there are games, they were starting to really come on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just went away. I don't know what happened.
I don't know, but you especially can't have a performance like Saturday and expect to do well in the NCAA tournament. Larry Atkinson says we're still talking some basketball here. I think the experiment of going for 5 stars has come to a crashing failure. Ouch. Other teams have tried and failed. Maybe Muss will go back and pull the best players out of the portal now.
Well, I think he's always going to use the portal, but you can forget this idea of not recruiting 5 stars. He's already signed 2 of them, and he's putting a full court press on another one.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's burnt out on 5 stars yet. I talked last week about how this may, because there are fans that don't want that, and they're looking at it already and going, well, see, we're tired of this. We had all this hype to start the season, and now we see what a 5-star gets you. He's a one and done, and you never see how good he's going to be, and then he's already gone. And we've seen that with Kentucky. We don't want that here. There are fans that have that mentality. If you have that mentality, you may get some relief because, as we talked about, I think a couple of weeks ago, it looks like the NBA may go ahead and do away with one and done and start taking guys straight out of high school into the G Leagues and giving them contracts and money. And you would have a situation similar to baseball in that you'd have a decision to make if you were a high school guy. Okay, they're going to give me this much to come straight out of high school. What if I went to college for a year or 2 years? Could I up my money? So you still may see some guys coming over that the NBA might want to offer right out of high school. But you're probably not going to get the one-and-done types, the can't-miss guys. Oh, wow, we're going to – Nick Smith Jr. I can't put myself in his head, but when he was a senior in high school, if he could have gone straight to the G Leagues, would he have done that? Well, it would depend on what they offered him, I'm sure, what kind of contract. But that may be going away. So if you're one of those people that don't want those guys on the team at all because you say they're more trouble than they're worth, then you may get some relief. But Muss is not going to stop recruiting 5-stars. At least it doesn't look like he is. Yeah,
and I think the benefit of them outweighs the negatives, too. I mean, you look at what Nick Smith Jr. has been able to do when he's back on the court. I know he had the injury issues, but, I mean, Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr., Jordan Walsh, they have contributed in a very positive way to this team. And I think you'll look at guys like Bayfall and Layden Blocker who will be able to do the same thing coming in next year.
And if Walsh comes back, then that kind of negates that argument for him because there could be some 5-stars that are not one and done, could stick around for a couple of years.
And the thing that people don't understand on social media, and I talk to my dad about this a lot, is that you look at these 5-stars and they're so good, they're so talented, but he always goes, Courtney, you have to realize they're still freshmen. They're allowed to make mistakes because they're young and they're going to do those things. So I think it would benefit all of them to come back for another year. But I get it. The NBA is calling. S. Giles asks, is Thursday's SEC tournament matchup against Auburn a must-win game? Seems like it might be.
Right now, the latest bracketology has them a 9 seed.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue that Lunardi's not right, but he's right most of the time. I guess they're confident enough in him that Musselman said he thinks they're in.
Well, and also the net rankings, too. They're looking at those net rankings.
Well, that's what that bracketology is based on. Right. So he's projecting them as a 9 seed. I can't see, even if they lost to Auburn, I can't see them dropping all the way to a 9, from a 9 seed to now you're an 18, so you don't get in because it only takes 16 in each bracket. So I think they're probably in.
Yeah.
So is it a must-win, though? Yes, I think it is, because here's why. If you lose this game on Thursday, you go into the NCAA tournament on a 4-game losing streak. I don't see how you do anything on the basis of that. No. You'd be below a 9 seed then. You'd probably be an 11, 12 seed. You're going to play a really good team in the first round, the kind of teams that have been beating you.
That 5-12 matchup, oof.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So, I think you need to beat Auburn. If you beat Auburn, you got a little momentum. You want to beat Texas A&M, and now you're rolling. Who knows? You win those 2 games, you might win the whole thing. That would put you into the NCAA tournament with some momentum. So I think it is must-win.
Yeah.
It's not must-win in terms of getting in. It's must-win in terms of what do you do when you get in.
Yeah. No, they'll still be in even if they lose to Auburn, but you're right. It's about having that confidence because you look at what Nick Smith Jr. said. 3 games lost in a row has lost our confidence, has hurt our confidence.
No positive energy.
No positive energy, as we're going to talk about in just a second. I believe it might be the next question or the one after that. But Hot Dogger says, I know Muss thinks the Hogs are an NCAA tournament team, but I'm not sure the players think that. Sometimes they play like they haven't been coached before. But I still have hope. Just wonder if the Hogs do.
I actually hope that they don't think they're in, that they're not sitting there thinking, yeah, we're already in.
Okay.
If you think that, then I don't know what your motivation is. If you're thinking, if you've got some doubt, if you're sitting there going, man, if we lose this thing, we might not get in, might be a sense of urgency there. So I don't think it's bad for them to be sitting there thinking, maybe we're not getting in. As far as looking like they've not been coached, this is a funny story. I got a buddy in Texas. He used to be an Arkansas fan. These days he's more of a Texas Tech fan, but he's mostly a basketball fan. Watches a lot of basketball because he's retired and he sees all the games. And he knows who Musselman is and he's familiar with him. He's seen him and all this stuff. But he hadn't been watching a lot this year, and he said, man, I saw that Kentucky game the other day, and I'm used to this guy jumping around, going crazy. He said, he had this look on his face like, I don't know what they're doing out there, but that's not what we coached them to do. So maybe he's right. They are playing like they're not being coached to do what they're doing out there right now. Because I went back and looked at what he was talking at. Musselman has this puzzled look on his face, like, what am I watching?
He does this a lot, where he's like, what is happening?
So, you know, a big shock. Players don't always do what you coach them to do. You spend all week or 3 or 4 days preparing for a game, and you got it all down, and here's the game plan, we want you to do this and that, and then they don't always do that. They're not robots.
They are not robots, and there are a couple of freshmen out on the court that make those mistakes. Yeah. You've got to let it happen. Sure. I agree completely. That's good analysis from your buddy there.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Well, he doesn't see Muss a lot. And he was just like, whoa, what's happening to him? And he went from being jumping around happy to now he looks like he don't even know what he's looking at.
He's a little bit subdued. He hasn't been, as much in the refs' faces and things like that.
I will say that he's not as pouty, though.
Yeah.
Last year when they lost the game, he'd be kind of sullen. Now he's just kind of, he just looks like, I think you can be overpowered by some of the, they've had so many problems, I think it may have beat him down a little bit.
Yeah, well, Mousetown says, I'm not a rip the officials guy, but those refs in the Kentucky game were the worst. That technical foul on Devoe was an overreaction. It resulted in his ejection and basically decided the game, right?
Well, there's no way to ever know if it decided the game because we won't know what he would have done if he'd have stayed in the game. It certainly didn't help him.
No.
But my basic reaction to that is that's probably not what caused them to get beat. They already had problems. But you can look at the fact that they were down 3, and then when that mess was all over, they were down 9 because Kentucky got four free throws and then scored when they got the ball back. So it was a 9-point swing. The issue there is you've got technically what somebody gets kicked out of a game for and what maybe they should get kicked out of the game for.
Yeah, that's my
Devoe apparently thought he was fouled, and instead they called a foul on him, so he overreacted, and he got a T, and then he overreacted again and got another one. I think that's what happened. So then that's 2, and you get ejected. He's got to control himself. I mean, he's got a temper. We've seen him do this before. He's always getting in. Anytime it looks like there's a dust-up going on, he's right there in somebody's face. Probably needs to calm down a little bit. Musselman needs to say that. That was partially your fault. But I think refs should be very, very, very careful about taking a guy out of a game because now you are influencing the game. You want to call a foul? Yeah. Leave it at 1 technical. Don't give him the second one for the same thing. I mean, boom, you're out of the game. Don't do that. And then the issue was, did he even deserve one for what he did?
No.
I mean, he was just frustrated.
He was frustrated, yeah.
And it was a physical game, and I think they felt like they were getting pushed around and they were being called for more fouls than Kentucky was, and I think they felt like they were getting knocked around more than they were. That whole thing between Shibway and one of the, I think it might have been Makai Mitchell.
Yeah.
They're kind of pushing and grabbing and shoving, but then he goes around and just comes down with an elbow on top of his head, puts a dent in his head.
I know.
And I don't know how you look at that, go review that, and go, oh, yeah, it's a flagrant one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, you're sending a mixed message there.
You are.
Now, here's what I found interesting. When Musselman was asked about all this, what did he say? He said, he took that standard, we can't talk
about the officiating.
You know what that says when a coach does that? It says he's going to deal with this the right way, which is, I wouldn't want to be the guy at the SEC office that gets his evaluation of the officials. Like, whoa! Because I think we've already seen that Yurachek can get involved in this stuff because he kind of buds with Sankey a little bit. So maybe they're going to go back and look at some of this stuff. It's too late. It's already happened. But here's what I try to be objective when it comes to officials. I've admitted on here that sometimes I get kind of wacky talking about officials. But you've got probably 8, maybe 9 high-capacity, high-energy arenas in college basketball scattered around. You know, Rupp's one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
Allen Fieldhouse for Kansas. There are places where they have a lot of fans, 15,000 or more, and it's high energy anytime you go in there. In most of those places, and I've been to them, your home team's got already an advantage. Arkansas does not have an advantage with the refs playing in Bud Walton. I'm telling you, it's very common for them to end up with more fouls than the other team, and that almost never happens in those other places. So what's going on there? I don't know. I really don't. I can't explain it. All I know is it's not the norm. It's not what you normally see. When you go into Rupp or a place like that, the home team is generally going to foul less than you do. You know, it just happens. And we saw Arkansas in immediate foul trouble in that game. And come on, Shibway could have been fouled out of the game 5 minutes into the game if they'd been watching, but apparently they didn't.
Well, Jeff and I were watching my dad's game in the conference championships for their conference tournament, and he had made a comment to me, and he goes, "Man, do you see the officials in this game?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "They're just letting them play. They're not calling a lot of fouls."
Well, they let them play, but then when somebody starts banging somebody on the head with the elbow, it's like, okay, but we're going to get this guy over here.
We're going to get this guy over here, but they call a fair game is what he was trying to say. It's like, oh, they're letting them play, they're calling a fair game, and that's just a difference between some of these.
I didn't see that as just that alone. I'm not saying they didn't let them play, but I also saw some things that were just ridiculous.
Well, yeah. But they also were calling, it was foul, foul, foul. And I was like, y'all need to just chill out a little bit.
Yeah, so.
But that's what you get when you also get two teams like Kentucky and Arkansas who are aggressive together.
I realize that. But the bottom line is this. The referees played a huge part in the game, and supposedly they're not supposed to.
Yeah, they played a huge part.
They got to do their job. But you don't want to decide a game.
No.
You don't want to be the decider. And when you did that with Devoe, you took a big chunk out of Arkansas's hide.
You totally did.
When you did that.
You totally did. And you didn't, obviously eject Shibway for what he did. And we're going to have a question about that. Pig's Feet says Oscar Shibway killed the Hogs after the altercation. Can you explain how he wasn't ejected for a flagrant 2 elbow? Seemed to be a textbook by the letter of the law offense. I get that if we hit free throws, we either win or it is very close, but this seemed to defeat our team energy.
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look, and I should have, but I ran out of time doing this today. That may have been a flagrant 1. Do you know that it was a flagrant 2?
Well, how it was explained to me, and I went back and watched it, is the way it has to be intent to hurt, intent. The referee has to see intent behind a flagrant 2, which is an automatic ejection. They have to see the intent of he was trying to hurt the other player.
And they didn't think that.
And I don't think they think that after reviewing. But the way
you might as well just punch somebody.
Yeah, I know.
You hit somebody with your fist, you hit them on top of the head with your elbow. What's the difference?
And that's what I said. I said it looked to me, if I was reffing the game, and this is where you get people in the game, certain referees would go, that's a flagrant 2, and certain referees would go, that's a flagrant 1. I know.
They're looking at it.
I know.
What's the thought? You'd love to have some sort of a device. I've always wondered this.
Yeah.
Have some device hooked to their head, which you can hook into your head, and you can sit there and figure out what's going through this yo-yo's head when he looks at this.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that was. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
But that's what I'm saying. That's where we all said, and I looked at it twice, and I would call a flagrant 2 on that because it looked like there was intent to hurt there. However, those referees, I guess when they reviewed it, did not see intent.
He just accidentally swung his arm down. Bonk.
I know, but Mike, you and I sit there and go, we don't see that, but that's what those referees saw, and that's why I think this game was poorly officiated. Poorly officiated.
Okay.
You done with that?
You're done with that.
Yeah, all right. I don't want to make you mad today, Mikey.
Steve's coming on it.
Steve's coming out of your ears. Hog Corleone wants to know, when the hell is Coach Muss going to start playing Jalen Graham? You kind of talked about this
when
a little
Jalen
bit.
Graham starts playing consistent defense. Kentucky game is like the one that they just played Saturday was like a case study in what's going on with him. because he comes in the game and immediately gets an assist and has a dunk, and you're thinking, yeah, when this guy's in the game, they've got some inside scoring, right?
Yeah.
Then he goes down the floor, 2 straight possessions, and Shibway just goes over
It was just
lays it up. It's like throw, layup,
it was
throw,
easy.
layup.
It looked like there was no resistance.
And then he was gone, and that's why he's got to. And we've seen some games where he at least plays passable defense, but in this one he wasn't, and so he was quickly gone. And we're running out of time, so I'm not sure that it's ever going to happen.
I don't know either. Razor Alex 88 asks, is there anything positive we can glean from this basketball season?
Yeah, I mean, it's not over. I mean, so
Razor Alex 88 sounded like it is over.
I mean, if they beat Auburn, if they beat A&M, they keep winning.
They could win the whole SEC tournament,
and then they
Mike.
start winning in the NCAA. So, yeah, there'd be something positive to glean.
Yeah.
So you can't answer that question right now because the season's not over.
It's definitely not. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the comments that were made after a game. Marty Bird's Proxy wants to know, you take on Ricky Council IV's comments after the Tennessee game. When asked about the locker room and turning things around, he gave no comment. Later, he stated they needed to bring positive energy. We talked about those positive vibes, Mike, from the coaches on down. Do you think there's player-coaches issues?
You know, what I really think, because we all know that Muss is hard, he's difficult to deal with. He's difficult with his coaches. He's difficult with the players. And if you've got a coach that comes down on you, especially after a loss, so he's just come out of a locker room where he's probably gotten chewed out along with everybody else. And now he's got to sit up there and answer questions. That's tough. It is. Now, you're kind of coached to do that at the start of the year. You know, don't get up there and say a bunch of stuff and learn to control yourself. But I think he let a little thing slip out. Wasn't horrible. Some fans have said, no, what he said wasn't bad. He said, we need positive energy, and the coach all the way down.
Yeah, it trickles down.
We got to all play our part. That's not what I read into that. What I read into that is, we need positive energy. You should start up here, coach, and then when you do, we'll all do our part. But it starts with you. I know how coaches I played for in high school, not basketball, football, would react to, you need to give us positive energy. They would have looked me in the eye and said, I'm not playing, you are. You want some positive energy? Go out and do something and create positive energy yourself. I don't think everyone has this, or a lot of people have this idea that coaches give these speeches, you know, and it fires everybody up and it's inspirational and that's why you win games. That's all movie stuff. You win games because you're prepared, and then you, as we said before, you look like you've been coached. It's the opposite of what we were talking about before. They coach you, you go out and do what you've been coached to do, and you win games. And so when you're not doing that, is that the coach's fault? Does he have to do something in a way of being positive to make you play better? No, you're out there because you want to do it. If you feel like there's too much negativity, my dad always said this, if there's too much negativity, guess what? There's no negativity affecting you if you're a spectator. Just go up and sit in the stands and you can be part of the projected negativity. And it won't be directed at you because you won't be out there. But if you agree to be out there on the football field or on the basketball court or whatever, negativity is going to be projected in one way or another, and you have to be able to deal with it. So I don't think the problem with this team is they don't have enough positive energy.
Yeah.
I think they haven't been playing well, and you change that by playing well. And I don't think there's some magic, here's positive energy now, go get it. Here's a drink we've got that will give you positive energy.
I don't know. There might be, but
I don't think what he said is what the problem is.
Well, and I also think, to go back to your point, if he had to go into this press conference and talk about a game, you know, that they just lost, Muss just probably chewed them out in the locker room. But he also made a comment that me and Alyssa listened to, where he was asked about playing Tennessee's defense, and he goes, well, I don't know as much as I should because I was on the bench for a lot of it. And you hear that comment, and
Sure.
It felt like a lot of it was he was maybe angry he didn't get more playing time. It seemed like a Ricky Council personal
there
problem.
was a question directed at me and other people of the media about what we thought about all that, and I said, I can just tell you what I think about it, which is we've got Musselman over here who has a 3-year track record of coaching guys and having great success. And I know what Razorback fans were mad about during that 10 or 12 year period after Nolan. You're losing the best in-state players to other schools because that was a common complaint, and you're not winning in the NCAA tournament. So Muss comes in here and he doesn't lose in-state guys; he gets them, and he gets guys from other states too. And they're always playing their best when they get to the NCAA tournament, so they go to 2 Elite Eights. So I got Musselman here. Excuse me. Whoops.
Whoops.
And I've got Ricky Council over here, and Ricky Council's been here part of one season, and he's been up and down, and I've got the coach over here that's got his track record. Now, which one of those am I going to go? He's right, he's wrong. I would say, okay, Ricky Council, if you've got a problem with this guy, maybe you need to look at yourself, because I'm kind of going to go with him. I think he kind of knows what he's doing, and I think you're at a new school and under a new situation, and you're kind of up and down, and so maybe you ought to listen to more about what he says. That's just my name. That's the way I do that. But other fans have said no, they believe they'll take Ricky Council's side on this. And maybe there's not a side. We don't know for sure.
I think sometimes it's just that initial frustration from players. They're still young people. They're, things are going to be let out. They're emotional. Devoe's that way. Ricky's that way. Right. They're emotional. They're going to say things sometimes in press conferences that maybe are a little bit of the emotional side. They just went through a really tough loss. And now you're going to ask me about what the team's mindset is?
That's difficult.
Coaches lash out sometimes. Coaches will say sometimes, you're really going to ask me about that right now, right here? It's a good question. Yeah. So, hey, I'm for both sides. Can I be for both sides? Is that allowed?
That's fine.
That's allowed. Okay, great. That's my take on it. We're going to switch over to some football, Mikey. You ready for this? Rob's 45-16 asked, with spring practice just around the corner, just curious if you've heard any scuttlebutt about how the off-season conditioning program went.
There's no scuttlebutt on off-season conditioning. We're talking about weight room and running, and there are no press conferences. They used to put out these little videos. I mean, you guys look at that more than I do.
There's some,
Are there some inspirational videos?
Oh, awesome. They're lifting a lot.
So they're lifting and they're running and jumping and doing all that stuff.
Everything.
We haven't had a press conference since signing day. We have, I'm sure there'll be one this week since the first practice is what, Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
Okay, so we'll probably maybe have one on Wednesday or something.
Hopefully,
that'd be nice. And we'll learn a lot more about what's been going on with the football team. All we know is that Torian Carter, the defensive tackle, the fifth-year senior, has been cleared to go through spring. He got hurt a year ago, so that's huge news. But that's the only piece of real news we've had, and we'll have more next week because we'll be talking about whatever Sam Pittman said in the pre-spring press conference, and they will have had some practices. So.
Hey, those videos are nice though. They're lifting a lot of weight, so it looks good.
It'll be good to talk more about football, but I mean we're getting a little bit overwhelmed here. It's because we got men's basketball, women's basketball,
baseball,
softball, gymnastics.
We got all the things. We got all the things.
We're gonna throw football into the mix.
We are. We're gonna switch over to baseball now. I'm worried about the Razorbacks pitching. A lot of people are. TL Slayton. The team ERA is hovering around 6, considering how many lower-level schools they've played. That's alarming. Make me feel better. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, the ERA is actually down to 5.62.
Okay.
The concern is these injuries. I don't know where that's headed. Cody Frank was the latest guy to get injured, and he was a good middle relief guy. He's got a pretty good ERA of 3.09. You don't want to lose him. When they showed this yesterday, when he had to come out, he was grabbing like under his arm right here. Didn't look like an elbow.
And DVH said in the postgame when asked about it, he said it's not his arm. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, it might be a muscle in the shoulder or in the chest somewhere. So maybe that's not a huge injury. The injury to Cody Franks.
Or you mean Brady Tiger?
What am I doing? Brady Tiger.
Brady Tiger.
Looking at all these names down there. The injury to Brady Tiger could have been season-ending, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just they're saying 5 to 6 weeks. I'm going to say maybe 4.
Yeah.
Just be positive.
Well, it's a sprain. I mean, so it just depends.
So now where are the real issues here? Austin Ledbetter, a good middle relief guy last year. He's got an ERA right now of 10.38. Zach Morris, who was one of your better relievers last year, 14.21. Those two guys have to figure it out.
Yeah.
If they can't, then you know what the answer is. You got to start looking at freshmen. And when you look at freshmen, and look, Hunter Holland said, our freshmen are good. I'm around them every day. They're kind of nervous right now, but they'll come around. Well, they're not all going to come around, but maybe you could get 2. But right now, when I look at these guys, Gage Wood, 9 ERA, Cooper Dossett, 21, Ben Bybee, 6.75. That's not bad. Parker Coyle, 6. So maybe a couple of those guys get to where you can count on them, but I think you still got to look back at Ledbetter and Morris and try to figure out a way to get them, because Will McIntyre wasn't pitching well, and now he's looked good the last 2 times out. He's 2-0. His ERA is 6.17, but it was way above that, so it's coming back down. He hasn't been damaged yet. All 3 of those starters are 2-0, and all 3 of them have pitched. They have 45 combined strikeouts in 41 2/3 innings. So the starters are all looking good.
Nice.
The good news about all this is when you start talking about pitching problems, what about hitting? They're hitting .310 as a team, 22 home runs in 11 games. That's 2 a game. They got 2 guys hitting over 400, 5 over 300, and Caleb Calley, who was looking bad, has got up to 200 when he went like 4 games without getting a hit. Now he's had 2 home runs. So, I think it's all right.
Yeah.
I think it'll come around. They're hitting the home runs. Wagner's got 5. Stovall's got 3. Diggs has 3.
Nice.
So.
Well, it's like what Peyton Stovall said. He's like, we think our offense can carry us through this time of where the pitching issues are here, and hopefully we get healthy, and then, everything will be great. But they think the offense can take them. Mike, there was a question on social media, and I did want to ask you, bringing up these pitching injuries. A lot of people are asking, is this just bad luck, or is something happening conditioning? And
how would I know that?
I know, and I said the same thing. I said, I don't think we know that.
That's the first thing people are going to say. It's something that's being done with your
yeah.
pitching coach. You got to get a new pitching coach.
No, yeah, I know.
That's what people always say. So Matt Hobbs, I'm sure he's probably gotten a lot of emails from people.
Yeah, and I'm sure I feel like it's got to be bad luck, that there's just some bad luck. We'll have to figure out what the curse is and how it can be broken. Hog Redneck says, you keep complaining about our guys swinging for the fences too much. 10 games into the season, we're averaging 2 home runs a game. You just said that, Mike. I'll take that and be happy with it.
If what we had was just home runs, like last year, there were way too many situations where you got runners on second and third, nobody out. Right off the bat, guy swinging for the fences and he strikes out. Next guy gets up and hits an infield pop-up because you're swinging for the fences and you're hitting under the ball, popping it up. Third guy comes up and hits a ball deep, but it's caught on the warning track. That happened over and over and over. So you're not scoring because guys are trying to hit home runs. What I'm seeing this year, I talked about it. They're batting .310 as a team. As long as they're doing that, they can hit home runs. It's good.
Yeah.
Because if I've gone back and looked at their scoring and it's balanced. They're scoring some of them with home runs and some of them with singles, doubles, and triples, or doubles mostly.
Yeah, doubles.
So I think it's fine.
Yeah.
What I was talking about is when you're relying too much on hitting home runs. And so far, there's no evidence of that this year.
Yeah, they relied on the long ball, like you said, so much last year. And this year, you're right, it's more balanced, which is great. And then this is a great question. I'm really happy that we're ending the show on this one, Mike, because we talked about this last week. Melissa Lemon says, I don't like run rule baseball, but Arkansas has already won a few of them this season. When a player delivers an RBI that invokes the run rule, the game automatically ends. I get that, but it annoys me to no end when I hear someone refer to a hit that ends the game on the run rule as a walk-off. No, it's not. Your thoughts?
Okay, I've got some graphics here, so we don't get too confused here. But I'm gonna give you my take on this.
Okay.
Okay. This is walking a team off.
Okay.
Any action in the bottom of the ninth or bottom of extra innings that ends the game on a run or a run scored is a walk-off. Walk-offs can only be generated by the home team. Now, some are saying that a walk-off can also occur in a run rule game when one team takes the lead by 10 runs at any point from the 7th inning on because they're walking off. I don't agree, and here's why. Any action that ends a game resulting in any action that ends a game is a result of 2 teams walking off. But do you have a walk-off strikeout or a walk-off double play or a walk-off catch in center field? Of course you don't.
No.
So again, you walk a team off when a run scores to win a game in the bottom of the ninth or bottom of any extra inning game. You can have a walk-off homer, a walk-off single, a double, a triple. You can have a walk-off error.
Yeah.
But if any of those things happen to end a game because of the run rule, then you have a run-ruled You have run rule the other team, so you have a run rule homer, a run rule single, double, triple, or a run rule error. And the reason I say all that is you've got to have some way of indicating the difference between run ruling somebody and walking them off because they are not the same thing.
No, I like just saying they run ruled them.
Yeah.
Why can't you just say that?
And you could say, hey, run rule homer.
Run rule homer.
Hey, that get pitch a wild pitch, a run rule error.
Yeah.
You know, but you didn't walk them off.
But what's wrong with saying that? Because that also signifies, Mike, if I'm the viewer or I'm the listener, like if I'm listening to it on the radio, that signifies that you ended it early. You didn't even let them get to 9 innings. You said, no way, it's done. And that to me is also as impressive as a walk-off.
Yeah.
Right?
But again, there just has to be. You cannot say if it's the bottom, if it's the top of the ninth, and my team is down 10-0, and there's 2 outs, and I come to the plate and hit the ball to center field, and the center field catches it. That's not a walk-off catch in center field.
No, it's
just dopey.
But you just put up the definition, so it's definitely not a walk-off based on the definition of a walk-off. It's ridiculous. I don't like how people are saying that.
It would be you could say. Now, if the run rule comes into effect, it's a run rule double. It's a run rule error, but not a walk-off.
Not a walk-off. I agree completely, Mike. We need to put a stop to that on social media already. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Ask Mike. We'll see you next Monday to answer more of your questions.